A galaxy of superstar Sri Lankan personalities from all walks of life, sharing their stories, their experiences, their success and even their failures. With thousands of young Sri Lankans filled with ambition and hope.
The Gammatha Vipos Leadership Series,
where leaders of today shape leaders for tomorrow.
A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News here on TV1. You're joining me, David Faldano. Now, before we head into your stories in more detail, let's first take a look at the headlines this evening.
Addressing the UN conference on world food security, President says the world should not shy away from implementing policies to protect the health of the people. 4 members of the same family killed in a landslide. A total of 6 lives lost due to inclement weather-related incidents. 5 missing. 180,000 people affected. Water level of the Kalni River on the rise. General public advised to be vigilant. People above 60 years of age to be prioritized in the vaccination program. A statement from the Director General of Health Services.
And now taking a look at your headline-making stories, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said that governments across the world should not shy away from implementing policies to protect the health of the general public.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said that countries around the world should not hesitate to adopt bold policies to protect public health. The World Health Organization commended President Gotabaya Rajapaksa for his decision to phase out of the use of chemical fertilizer in Sri Lanka and invited him to deliver the first address at its annual conference.
In April of this year, the government of Sri Lanka banned the import of artificial fertilizers, pesticides and weedicides. Our decision took into account broader ecological issues as well as significant public health concerns. Use of artificial fertilizers and agrochemicals has been associated with the rise of non-communicable diseases amongst the general public. They have also long been identified with high incidences of chronic illness in the heartland of Sri Lanka. My government's decision to ban imports of artificial fertilizer and agrochemicals will therefore enable a long-needed national transition to a healthier and more ecologically sound system of organic agriculture. We are aware that there will be teething problems during this transition. These include constraints in domestic production and supply of organic alternatives, as well as adverse public perception arising from the ban. However, as leaders, it is our responsibility to take decisive action despite the challenges we will face. If we hesitate to make decisions, essential initiatives such as this will always remain confined to the realm of discussion. The government of Sri Lanka is ready to support our farmers and agriculture-based industries as our agroecological transition takes place. Support mechanisms include subsidies to farmers as well as the purchase of paddy by the government at a guaranteed price if yields are reduced temporarily. We would greatly appreciate the support of the international community, including multilateral organizations, individual governments, climate funds, technical experts and bodies, as well as businesses and investors to strengthen our domestic capacity in organic farming.
As of now, 6 people have been reported dead and 5 are currently missing due to the prevalent weather situation in the country. Now, 4 people in the same family in the Devanagala Marbanalla were reported dead after an earth embankment collapsed onto their house.
An earth embankment near the Devanagala historic Rajamaha Vihara in Mavanalla collapsed this morning. The father, the mother and the 2 children inside the household were buried underneath the rubble. 3 bodies were recovered this morning. However, it took the tiresome effort of Sri Lanka Army and the residents in the area to locate the body of one missing person. It is reported that the deceased was a 28-year-old male. The bodies were taken to the Mavanalla base hospital.
People who face this tragedy are devotees of the Devanagala temple and Karagampitigoda temple. The politicians failed to give these innocent people a plot of land for years. However, we asked them to evacuate because there are many other houses located on the highlands. What an unfortunate turn of events. It was the conduct of the politicians that resulted in this tragedy to some extent.
4 persons were reported missing following the landslide in the area. And as we can see, the situation here is as bad as it gets. So we request the general public to adhere to the warnings given by the authorities with regards to landslides or any natural disasters to avoid such a situation.
A 72-year-old individual was reported dead in a landslide. 6 people have been inside the house when the earth embankment collapsed onto the house. 2 houses were damaged as a result of an earth embankment collapse in Imbulpe, Gampaha. $197.5 millimeters of rain was recorded as the highest rainfall in the last 24 hours from Algama Medagama in Kegol. Rainfall of 188.2 millimeters from Moralia Oya, 165.4 millimeters from Bogan Estate and 156.2 millimeters from Nittambua were reported in the last 24 hours. Floods were reported from many areas in the country due to incessant rains, and the Gampaha district was battered most by floods. 123,559 people in 30,188 families from 13 divisional secretariats in the Gampaha district have been impacted due to floods. Sri Lanka Army, Sri Lanka Navy and the police have launched operations to rescue people who have been stranded in unsafe locations. More than 35,000 people in the Colombo district have been impacted due to the prevailing inclement weather. This is the manner in which several areas in Vellampitiya have been inundated. $1,059 people living in 220 houses in the Sitavaka Divisional Secretariat have been impacted due to inclement weather prevailing in the country. 13,282 people from 682 families have been affected in the Kalutara district, and the Kaladodu area on the Dodangoda-Nabada road has been 4 feet underwater due to heavy rains. 45 people from 16 families have been evacuated to safe locations due to a landslide warning issued in Digala, Vogan Estate in Dodangoda. The Baddegama water meter in Gaul district is on the increase due to heavy rainfall experienced in the water catchment areas on the highlands of Ging River. Because of this, several areas including Nagoda, Unamvitia, Pahathavalivita and low-lying areas of the Ging River were inundated. Many roads were inundated, including Mapalagama town after the overflowing of the Ging River. Panadugama, Akurasa in Matara have been inundated after Nilwala River overflowed. Ratnapura district was heavily battered from the prevailing inclement weather situation in the country. 78 people from 22 families have been evacuated to safe locations, and Alapatha in the Ratnapura district was 3 feet underwater. As of now, 183,028 people from 45,380 families have been severely affected due to the inclement weather situation prevailing across many parts of the country. 10 houses have been completely damaged and 620 houses have been partially damaged. 5,375 people from 1,275 families have been evacuated to 39 safe locations as of now.
Where have landslide warnings been issued to?
Landslide warnings have been issued to a number of divisional secretariats in 9 districts across the island. The general public have been notified to evacuate from areas in which red notices have been issued. These areas are in the Kalutara district, Ingiriya, Palindanuwara, Bulat Sinhala, Agalavatta and Matugama divisional secretariats. Ratnapura district, Kalawana and Ahaliyagoda in the Ratnapura district. Level 2 warnings have been issued directing residents to certain areas to evacuate if heavy rains persist. These areas are the Sitavaka Divisional Secretariat in the Colombo district, the Nellore Divisional Secretariat in the Gaul district, Walallava and Horana Divisional Secretariats in the Kalutara district, the Ambagamu Divisional Secretariat in the Nuwara district, and the Ayagama Divisional Secretariat in the Ratnapura district. The National Building Research Organization urged residents living in mountainous regions to stay vigilant.
What is the weather forecast for the next 24 hours?
The Department of Irrigation warns that the minor flooding situation in the next 6 to 16 hours might increase in the areas surrounding the Kalani River in Sitavaka, Kaduela, Biagama, Kolonava, Kalaniya and many areas in Colombo. A minor flood situation in the lowlands on the Alawa area in Mahaoya, Diulapitiya, Mirigama, Pandala, Wennappua, Nigambo, Katana and Dankotua. A risk of minor flooding in the Attanagalu and Kalu River valleys increasing in the next 24 hours. According to the weather forecast published by the Department of Meteorology at 4 p.m. today, showery conditions with thunder and lightning might occur in the western Sabargamur and northwestern and in the Gaul and Matara districts. Rains may exceed 75 millimeters in certain areas in the Nuwara and Kandy districts of the central province, and certain areas in the Gaul and Matara districts of the southern province will experience rains exceeding 50 millimeters.
How should the public act when severe weather strikes?
Some people still do not accept these red warnings. They stay back at their homes disregarding our warnings. We have informed people in areas that are at risk of flooding. This is a time where we are battling with the COVID-19 pandemic. So we would like to request the people to please act according to our directions. Out of the 7 people that were reported missing, 3 people had gone out to enjoy themselves during the severe weather conditions. Also, another 2 people had died when they went out to entertain themselves during the severe weather conditions. The 117 hotline is available to anyone who has been affected by the inclement weather conditions.
Meanwhile, according to the Ministry of Power, the supply of power to 82,000 consumers in the island was cut off.
Meanwhile, operations are underway to skim the furnace oil of the Sapugaskanda oil refinery, preventing further exposure of the oil to the external environment and to the Kalani River. Officers of the Sri Lanka Navy, Sri Lanka Coast Guard and the officials attached to the Sapugaskanda oil refinery are taking part in the event. However, the Minister of Water Supply, Vasudevananayakara, says that the supply of clean drinking water has not been disrupted due to this issue. He added that the water obtained from the Kalani River will be tested thoroughly before being purified at the Ambatale and Biyagama water treatment plants. Minister Uday Gammanpila engaged in an inspection tour in the area.
This issue will be thoroughly examined. This is the first time a problem like this has emerged after I was appointed as the minister. I have organized discussions on Tuesday to provide a solution to this. As I mentioned earlier, we must make sure a situation like this will not happen again. We will also look into the compensation payments that need to be paid for those who have been impacted by this.
Deputy Director General of Public Health Services, Dr. Hemantha Herath, commented on how people should act in the face of the current inclement weather and the COVID-19 situation in the country.
When
we have to evacuate people in a rush, when floods occur, we will not be able to adhere to health guidelines such as social distancing. So in order to avoid that situation, evacuate to safe locations beforehand. As soon as you relocate to a safe location, we will implement a program to identify if you have any ailments. We will be able to minimize the possible complications of the COVID-19 cases that may arise with the monsoon season.
අපිට මේ වැහි සමයත් එක්ක කොවිඩ් රෝගයේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඇතිවිය හැකි සංකූලතා අවම කරගනිමින් අපිට මේ කටයුත්ත කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා.
We're going in for a short commercial break. Stay tuned for more news on the other side.
Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk.
මොකද මේ පොර නැතුව අපි මොනවා කරන්නේ පස් දාලා හදන්නේ කොහෙන් හරි පොර මිනිහ 100ක් අරගෙන ඕන 100 දෙනෙකුට කියන ඒක දෙන්න අනේ මිනිස්සු නිකන් ඉන්න ඕන අන්න මිනිහා ගන්නවා නැති මිනිහට අත්තම කරුවන කන්න දෙන්න ඕන ඔක්කොම අපි කරන්න ඕනේ මේ ගොවිතැන් කරලා අපේ රජයේ දොස් තියෙනවා ඒගොල්ලෝ රජයේ පඩියක් කරනවා අපිට එහෙම පොර මිනිහක් ගන්න සල්ලි නැහැ නේ දුක් විඳලා ඒක පොර මිනිහ දෙන්න නැත්නම් මොකද කරන්නේ.
Now that was the situation opposite the Kapitpola Agrarian Services Centre. Farmers of the Hevanukumbura division were given fertilizer today.
Despite quarantine regulations, 250 farmers had gathered in an unsafe manner along the Hevanukumbura-Bogahakumbura main road. The people were gathered to receive fertilizer from the only fertilizer lorry that arrived in the village with only 102 bags of fertilizer. Although some farmers received fertilizer for 1,500 per bag, another set of farmers had to return home empty-handed. The correspondent who went to report this matter was obstructed by the agricultural research officer. Farmers, however, intervened. These are the fields of the Galmatiava area. The crops have turned yellow. Farmers have given up hope to harvest the Yala season.
මහත්තයෝ අන්තිම වතාව තමයි මේ කුඹුරු කරන්නේ. අදින් පස්සේ ආයේ මේ පාර කුඹුරු කරන්න හම්බ වෙන්නේ අපිට. අපිට කන්න තියෙන තනකොළ තමයි ඊට පස්සේ.
Our you reporter, in fact, Kumara Ihalagadra, met this farmer who spoke about their plight and how they have been battered by not only the lack of fertilizer but many other issues, including not being able to sell their produce.
We live in a dense forest-like area in Sigiriya Pidurangala. We do not have any vehicles. We have to obtain loans to cultivate our fields. We toil day and night and we don't even eat our food on time. We spend many sleepless nights watching over our fields and chasing away elephants. After all of this suffering, we can't even sell the vegetables that we grew. Since 4 this morning, I haven't had a cup of tea or a drop of water. We are stuck on this road without a way to sell off our produce. I have to ask the government as to if this is how they plan on treating the farmers in this country. There is an old saying that says a farmer who feeds the people is like a god. But since 4 this morning, we are stuck here without a drop of water, some food to eat, or even a place to stay. This is the fate of a farmer in this country today. Our fields are being destroyed by the rain on one hand. On the other hand, elephants destroy them. Farmers have no chance. Farmers have now become beggars. Banks send us letters and we are drowning in debt. We are helpless and have no option but to die.
Now on to a COVID-19 update today. With the detection of 2,280 COVID-19 cases today, the total tally of cases in the country has exceeded 100,000. Now, according to the Ministry of Health, the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country stands at 201,534.
A decision was reached to give priority to those who are above the age of 60 in the vaccination drive.
The Presidential Task Force has decided to inoculate people above the age of 60 first with the batch of vaccines that is to be delivered in the near future. Secondly, the senior citizens in elders' homes in MOH divisions, pregnant mothers, state officers and workers in factories or garment factories within Gramiladari divisions that are facing a high risk will be given the vaccine. People between the age of 30 to 40 will be inoculated after that.
සේවිකාවන්ට වෙනවා. ඒ කට්ටියට එන්න දුන්නාට පස්සේ තමයි අපි අවුරුදු 30ත් 60ත් අතර ඉන්න ජනතාවට එන්නත් කරන්නේ කිරීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ.
බුදු මහත්තයෝ අපේ අයියෝලයි මහත්තයට ඕන තරම් කියලා ඇති මේ අලියා බුවන්නේ කියලා මහත්තයෝ අයියා මං අත් දෙකෙන් උස්සගෙන ගියේ මගේ
The human-elephant conflict claimed 2 more lives in the Katanwawa village in Hambantota today.
J.K. Channaka Karyavasam is a father of 2. In an attempt to chase away the elephant that had approached this house, Channaka Karyavasam lost his life during the confrontation with the wild elephant. He paid the ultimate price, trying to save the lives of his children. He was 36 years old at the time of his demise. Before his demise, Channaka Karyavasam had constantly raised his voice demanding a solution to the human-elephant conflict. Channaka Karyavasam, who was the chairperson of the Gammadda Savya organization, provided invaluable leadership to the Katanwawa village.
Much like the development of a nation, elephants must also be relocated to an elephant management reserve. If humans have the freedom to exist, elephants should also have the freedom. I oppose inconsistent programs. A proper project is needed. On that day, both the village and the elephants will be safe.
6 institutions, including the Sri Lanka Standards Institute, have been transferred to the newly established Ministry of Digital Technology and Enterprise Development under the purview of Minister Namal Rajapaksa.
According to a special gazette notification issued by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the Industrial Technology Institute, the National Science and Technology Commission and all IT parks are also under the purview of the new state ministry. The Sri Lanka Institute of Nanotechnology Private Limited is also under Minister Namal Rajapaksa's new state ministry. Meanwhile, the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka and its affiliates, Information and Communication Technology Agency, Sri Lanka Computer Emergency Readiness Team, Sri Lanka Telecom Company and its subsidiaries and affiliates, and the Department of Registration of Persons will be further covered by the ministry. Meanwhile, KW Ivan De Silva has been appointed as the Secretary to the State Ministry of Rural Paddy and Allied Tanks, Reservoirs and Irrigation Development.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Sajid Premadasa issued a release in line with World Environment Day. Leader of the opposition says against a backdrop where the entire world has given priority to conservation of the environment, it is unfortunate that Sri Lanka has not focused its attention to conserving the environment. The release further goes on to note that the Samagi Jana Balawege as an eco-friendly party will take the responsibility and the commitment to conserve the environment.
Now on to some international news. Facebook Inc. has suspended former US President Donald Trump's Facebook and Instagram accounts for 2 years.
He was barred indefinitely from both sites in January in the wake of posts he made on the US Capitol riots, but last month Facebook's oversight board criticized the open-ended penalty. Facebook said, quote, "Trump's actions were a severe violation of our rules," end quote. Trump, responding to that, said the move was an insult to millions who voted for him last year's presidential election. Facebook's move comes as the social media giant is ending a policy shielding politicians from some content moderation rules.
Today is World Environment Day, a day where we celebrate and remember Mother Nature. Well, with that, we wrap up primetime news here on TV1. For more news, log on to our award-winning website, that is www.newsfirst.lk. For the News First team, I'm David Paldano. Take care and good night.
To devastation. As we mark World Environmental Day today, let's remember that Sri Lanka is not just a blessing, but also a responsibility. And that responsibility rests with the people and very specially with the temporary guardians of our nation, its leaders. As Chief Seattle famously stated, "Man does not weave this web of life. He is merely a strand of it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself."
Lanka.